Hey everybody, it's Dave Dugdale, learningvideo.com. I've been using Premiere Pro for many years. And I'd say the last month or two I've been using Resolve 12.5 almost like on a daily basis, and I haven't touched Premiere Pro in a long time, like a couple months anyway. And I've been mostly doing personal projects on it to get accustomed to it, try to figure out how to use it more efficiently. And I've got a bunch of questions. Now, why would you watch this video? I don't know, maybe you're a guru at Resolve and you know the answers, and I would really appreciate if anybody could answer some of these questions. That'd be great. And I know one or two people from Blackmagic Design watch some of these videos that I create, especially on Resolve, so they might hopefully chime in. So hopefully what will happen from this video is I'll ask the questions that are pretty maybe common for people that are going from Premiere Pro to Resolve. And if you're one of those people and you look down below, or perhaps after this is all done, maybe a couple of weeks later, maybe I'll make another video if the answers aren't very condensed or clear below this video, either on YouTube or on my blog or Vimeo or wherever this video ends up. I want to say I'm not an expert at editing, so some of these questions I'm about to ask might seem super simple to some people, and are like, Dave, you're screwing it up. You're doing it the wrong way. You're going about it the wrong way. I can totally get that. If you haven't watched any of Alexis Van Herkman's courses, go to Ripple Training. Fantastic. I've watched, I think, everything he's done on Resolve. It's fantastic. And maybe some of these questions he's answered, but I can't seem to find them. And I've looked through the Blackmagic forums. I can't seem to find the answer to these questions. Moving around the timeline quickly and expanding it and contracting it, zooming in, zooming out. Obviously, we have this right here, this minus and plus. Which is great. So I can zoom in and zoom out. Also, if you take your mouse, and I've got a Windows mouse with the scroll wheel, if I scroll over here by the tracks, you can see I can move things up and down for both audio and video. Now if I take my finger and I put it down on the keyboard on the Alt and I just hold it there, now you'll notice that it's zooming in and out. I'm just going to keep my cursor. You can see I'm right over this area right here. If I use the plus and minus key, you'll notice nothing happens. In Premiere Pro, that expands and contracts. So I'm going to take my cursor and take it off of that timeline area and bring it up to here. And not over the icons, but over just to the left or right of this plane area right here. So I'm going to just leave it right here. Now if I plus or minus, oh, it works. And it behaves very similar to the way Premiere Pro behaves. So my question is, if I can't get plus minus to work when I have I should be able to put my cursor anywhere, like in Premiere Pro, meaning focus, I guess mouse focus anywhere. If I bring it up here, over here, if I put plus minus, you notice it's not working. If I have it down here, it's not working. If I have it only over here, now it works. I would like that to work no matter where the mouse is focused, I guess you could say. I don't know if that's the correct programming term. So my next question is, you see how when I use the scroll wheel, it's bringing it up and down. Well, instead of having it that way, and me holding the Alt key down and zooming in that way, what I would like to have is the opposite. So if I just touch the scroll wheel, it'll expand and contract the timeline. And then if I hold the Alt key down, then it'll expand and contract, I guess, or move up and down in a vertical way of the timeline. All right, if I drag a track down and then I take another track and I drag it over it, you can see like that right there. Let's say I unlink this and I get rid of just the audio part of it. I want to take this track now and I want to bump it up. You'll see there's a problem. It's like overwriting that clip below it. So if I take this clip, I bring it up, and now obviously I can bring things down. But I don't want to do it that way. Let's say I'm like, I don't want to have it this track right here and in that order. I just want to take this audio track and bring it up to track 1. But every time I try to do it, I can't. In Premiere Pro I can do this, but in this software I can't. Is there any way to change this behavior so that doesn't happen? All right, titles. I'm very confused on titles. Maybe if I show what I've been doing with titles, maybe the question will come out. It doesn't behave similar to what's going on in Premiere Pro. So let me see if I can demonstrate this. So I've created a new bin, and I called it Z Test Titles. And then what I do down here is just one called Text. I'm just gonna bring up text, not like lower third or anything. I'm just gonna bring it over one of these clips. And let's go to Inspector. Actually double click on it. And I'll just call this title 1. We're gonna make it big, be quite obvious. And we're going to, let's say, change the font real quick just so we can see differences here. Here's title 1. In fact, we're gonna make it a different color. We're gonna make it green. Okay, so that's our title 1. So now, Alexis Van Herkman said you can copy and paste these things around. Alexis Van Herkman is the guy that runs all the courses, or does the courses. And there you go, title 1. I can just copy and paste. Wonderful. I could do it again if I wanted to, but I don't want to really do that. I want to put a different thing in here. So what Alexis Van Herkman said I could do is I could drag this into a bin. And if I right click down here, there's no rename, which I think is odd. There's no like attributes or anything like that that I can see that are highlighted that I can actually change the name. So what do? I just double click twice like I do in, I'm just gonna call this title 1. So this is acting very similar to, kind of similar to Premiere Pro. All right, now I want to duplicate it, and you'll see that there's no duplicate and there's no like copy. So I'm like, okay, that doesn't seem very clear. And then up here on this tab, there's nothing that says titles. So I don't have any options here. So what do? I'm just gonna go Control C and Control V. Oh, I got it again. All right, well, so what I'm gonna do here is call this title 2. And I'm gonna drag it down. All right, here's title 2. And what I'm gonna do is change the name of it to title 2. Let's make it slightly smaller, and we'll change the color to, I don't know, let's say this color. All right, what if I go to a different timeline now? So I'm gonna go to, this one called Jaws Night, and I'm just gonna drag 1, we'll drag 2, and what the heck, we'll drag 3. As you can see, there's probably a problem already happening. See where it says title 1, title 2, title 3? Title 1 looks good, title 2 doesn't look good, and title 3 doesn't look good as well. See how they all kind of went back to title 1. So my question is, how do you duplicate a title, have it become its own individual entity, so I can then go to a different timeline or whatever I need to do to use it again. All right, my next question is about the retime curve percentage. Let me demonstrate. So if I go to this clip and it's done 60 frames per second, you see it's really somewhat slow. And if I go to retime curve, and I don't want retime curve, I would love it, and it's unfortunately it's off the screen, but I'm only going to check retime speed. That's the one I'm mostly interested in. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm just going to put a control point, or whatever you call it, right here. And let's wait for it to autosave, unfortunately. And I'll put another one right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the speed of here. I don't know, let's make this, I wish these were default at the logarithmic or curve instead of this more linear curve. And then I can speed up and then maybe slow back down again, something like that, just as an example. So my question comes is, watch what happens. You see I'm at 160, and to get to like real time, I might need, you can see it all of a sudden it disappeared. And it's not because I don't have this full screen, but you can see retime curve and the speed just below where I'm going up and down. I lost it. I'm gonna release the mouse and I go, oh, now I can see it's at 170, but let's say I meant to make it 200. I'm gonna guess it's somewhere around here, and then I release and then I hover over it. Yeah, I'm a little bit close, but I'm not quite on it. So how do you do that? How can you see it? All right, next question I have is about positioning of the timelines. I got a lot of different timelines on here. So if I go up to this one, and then you see they're numbered. Like if I have number 9, like in Premiere Pro, I can click and drag them around in different locations. So they're all in order of how I shot it. So if I click here and I drag this down, it doesn't do anything. It just goes to 9, or it goes to this one or that one. I can't drag and reposition. If I right click on any of these, it doesn't do anything. All right, I know you guys are gonna have an answer for this one. I haven't figured it out, but hopefully this should be easy a fix. So what I wanna do is I wanna copy and paste, and I wanna change the track assignment. So what I'm gonna do is you see how there's a red box around the V1 and there's V2. And I don't quite understand how this works. So if I click over here, nothing happens. But if I click the V2, you can see now V2 is highlighted, but now it's called V1, but that one's called V1. So I'm confused. What are you trying to do to me here? I just want to make a track selection, so when I paste, I take this track and I copy and I paste it somewhere. I want it to paste on track 2. But whoa, I want on track 1. So that didn't help me at all. So if I trim this one down, let's say, and I say I copy here, put my cursor here, and I say I want to go to track 2. Paste. You see it went down here. So how do you do it? So you, like in Premiere Pro, it's like, hey, this is the active track. This is where I want it to go. Paste, boom, it goes to that second track. All right, next up, I wanted to raise the level on multiple tracks audio-wise. So I'm going to pick a bunch of them, drag them onto the timeline here. Actually, these are bad examples right here. So let's zoom in on this right here. And I want to raise all of these, let's say like 4 dB. Obviously, I can take individual track and I can raise it 4 dB this way. Undo. But if I track all tracks, now I can't see. I'm selecting just one of them, but not all 4 are going at the same time. So how do I increase the volume to multiple tracks at the same time? If I take this track and I move it up above here, let me zoom in. And let's say I make these exactly the same length. I'm just gonna slide this over really quickly. So you can see that there's both tracks here. Now you're gonna see that there's 2 underneath it and there's 1 on top. That's actually not what I wanna do. I wanna have these both totally together. If I take this bottom clip and say I wanna delete it, and then I'm gonna drag this one down just to replace it. I know there's different ways to do this, but I'm just gonna hit delete. See what happened? The whole track got removed. Maybe if I undo, you can see this track, I want it to stay there. If I delete the top track, same thing happens. I want that space holder to be, I want it to stay there. I don't want to have to like drag it off to the side, then hit delete. I don't want to do it that way. So is there a behavior or something within the settings where I can get it to stay, that placeholder to stay when I delete one of those 2 tracks? All right, next up is kind of a performance question. I'm gonna kind of show you kind of the workflow of what's going on, and I don't know if I can throw more money at the issue, but basically in Resolve, when you shoot or you edit 1080 footage off the A7S, which is not an all-I codec, it's like missing, I'm not a codec genius, but it's basically missing some things. Missing frames, I guess you could say. And what happens, from I understand, is like if you put the playhead somewhere where there's not a interframe there, maybe it's an IPB frame or an IP whatever frame, it takes a while for it to rebuild so it can start from that frame. When you're in 4K, it can get really bad. In 1080, it works fine on my machine. My machine's really beefy. It does great. And this is without generating any optimized media, no cache, no transcoding, none of those words. It's just basically right off the camera onto the card or onto the SSD, and I'm editing, and it works fine. Now, when I do 4K, that's when I get into issues. Like I'll park it on one of those frames that it has to rebuild itself. And sometimes it takes like 4 seconds for it to actually start playing, which becomes a very uncreative process of editing. So you're like waiting. Oh, okay, now it'll go. Like if you want to like see if a cut works and you keep replaying that cut and several times, and each time you have to wait 4 seconds, it becomes quite a bother. So you start thinking, well, I can just optimize the media, and it does it in the background. It can do stuff like that. It works great. But the problem, and let me show you the problem. I'm going to bring up the highlights right here. You can see they're blown out. That concrete in the background, if I bring it down to super whites, you can recover them. Sorry if you can hear my girls in the background. They're making a bunch of noise. It's summertime. I can't make videos during the day, which is very difficult when they're here. But it's great having them here. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Media tab. And I'm going to go to the resolution. We're going to put this to DNX HR, I don't know, HQ for instance. And we'll say save, and then I'm going to generate optimized media. So basically what that's doing, it's transcoding or whatever you want to call it, into a different format, which is much more edit friendly. And it'll have, I guess, all the interframes basically. So no matter where you park the playhead, you don't have to wait. It's seamless. It plays back extremely well. So you have a really good editing experience. Now when I go to color and I bring down the highlights again, watch what happens. You can see the signal is totally truncated. All that concrete behind her is clipped. So we've lost our superoids. We've lost our capability of getting that stuff back. So what I'm going to do is go to delete, generate optimized media. I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to go change this to uncompressed 16-bit float. Now I read this from Alexis Van Herkman off his blog. This is about the only way you can do it, from what I understand. I go back to media and I say generate optimized media. Take a few seconds to do it. I believe this creates an even larger file. I did the calculation on it before. I think the original A7S footage is so big, and then you make the DNxHR, it's like 4 times as big, and then you do this uncompressed one, it's 16-bit float, it's even bigger. So let's go ahead and take a look, and sure enough, when I bring the signal down, we have optimized media, but we've also got our super whites intact, so we can actually color while we do that, which is, I would think, is important. Maybe one of the things in the workflow is maybe I do the complete edit without doing any sort of color grading first, and then turn off generated optimized media, do the coloring, because you're basically only sitting on one frame while you're coloring most of the time. And then later on, you can turn optimized media back on. I don't know. It doesn't work that well because, again, it truncates the signal. Now, my problem is I have a scratch drive, which is where all the optimized media goes, and that's what I understand is the correct way to do it. And herein lies my big question from this thing I've been talking about, is if I'm doing optimized media, I'm going to fill up my scratch drive, which is only a half gig or a half terabyte drive to begin with. It fills up extremely fast, even for a small project. Like a 2 or 3 minute video will fill up a half terabyte drive pretty quickly. Yeah, depending on how much footage you got. If like a 20-to-1 shooting ratio, you obviously use all that footage, but you want to see it. You want to be able to edit around it and, chop it down to like a 2 or 3 minute video. So that doesn't really work. So my question is, do I get a multiple terabyte drive to be able to generate optimized media with the uncompressed 16-bit float, which obviously takes time? Or the second question is, do I just throw more money at it? Since I'm getting a dongle in the mail shortly with the full version of Resolve, and it can use 2 GPUs. If I get 2 1080 GTX 1080 cards that are just coming out and from NVIDIA and put them in SLI mode, if I understand, Resolve is uses the GPU quite well, efficiently, whereas Premiere doesn't use it as well, from what I understand. And I've seen that in my test, just looking at the usage when I'm, trying to edit 4K footage. It seems to offload a lot more work to the GPU for Resolve. If I got 2 of those cards and I'm playing back 4K footage, when I didn't have to transcode, would that solve the issue? Because I would rather not have to buy bigger scratch drives. But I wouldn't mind buying more horsepower in terms of GPU. So that's pretty much it for that question. All right, my last question is, does anybody have any favorite plugins for a compressor for audio? Because I don't have one now, and I'd like to be able to control the audio without having to go to a third party. I don't want to leave and have to go to Audition and come back, which I don't even think I can do in this case. But I don't want to have to do that kind of stuff. So if I could do a plugin right then and there, it would make it so much easier. Because I don't think this has any compression. That's, I guess, would be my question is, A, does it have any questions because I can't find the compression, or B, what's a good plugin to use? So that's pretty much all the questions I had. What I'll try to do is number these questions, so if you respond like, oh, I know answer number 5, just write 5 and then the answer. And then what I'll try to do is maybe as the answers come in, either on YouTube or Vimeo, or maybe even in the Blackmagic forum, I'll try to condense them maybe on my blog. And then if I get all of them, or maybe most of them, maybe I'll make another video with all the answers and then I'll publish that. So if you don't want to wade through all the answers, or the condensed version of it on my blog, all the answers, and you're thinking about, like myself, going, leaving Premiere Pro, dropping that $50 a month membership and going to Resolve, Again, my thought process here could be wrong, but it seems like Adobe's moving a little bit too slowly for us, especially if we've got all our money every month that they're doing this, and they're not innovating quickly enough, where I think it seems like the people at Blackmagic are innovating much quicker on the editing side of things. And I would think this time next year after NAB, it might be at par with Premiere because it's going so quickly. Whereas Adobe, they gave us a white balance dropper, eyedropper. That was cool, I guess. That was the little thing. And then they gave us finally secondaries, which didn't seem to be implemented very well. I mean, they still don't have things like U versus U or some of these really advanced features in the color tab. And again, the whole reason I'm switching over is mostly because of S-Log. S-Log is a pain in the butt to color grade in Premiere, but I find I get better results in Resolve. So that's pretty much it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.